My guest today is Dr. Michael Forte, recently appointed as the Senior Student Services Officer by the Muscogee County School District in Columbus, Georgia. Mike, welcome and thank you for agreeing to talk to me today.
Well, thank you, Dr. Arnold. Sir, it's a pleasure to be here, sir.
So tell me a little bit about your educational journey, Mike. What elementary school did you start in? What town? And then your middle school and high school career?
Yes, sir. So I'm homegrown here in Muscogee County. Elementary school, Diamond. I actually lived overseas for a while, but my home school that I claim is Diamond Elementary, Eddie Junior High School, Carver High School, the Tigers, and I went to school, my college at Florida A&M University.
Florida A&M, the Rattlers, right?
That's correct. FAMU Rattlers, sir.
That's right. Um, who who was the principal at Carver when you were there?
Oh, Mr. Harry Vernon.
Oh
Yes,
goodness,
sir. Icon,
Harry.
a legend. Yes,
I
sir.
played I played golf a few times with Harry and Dr. Lindsay,
Yes, sir.
and they took me for more money than I thought was possible. But I learned a lot. The first thing I learned was don't bet with them. And
Yes.
the second thing was it's a lot better to be straight in the fairway and short than it is to be long and out of bounds.
Yes, sir.
uh,
That's a sound plan, Dr. Arnold. That's a sound plan, sir.
well, it works in life as well as on the golf course.
That's right.
Um, what was your first teaching position, Mike?
I started at Kendrick in 1998 as a social studies teacher, civics.
Who was your principal there?
Mr. Carey.
Gerald Carey, great
Gerald
guy.
Carey.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why did you choose to go into teaching?
Dr. Arnold, I started out in law enforcement. And sir, if I can be transparent, I really didn't like arresting people. That just did not sit well with me. And I prayed to God and I asked him, was there something else that I could do to get ahead of this? And things start opening up and education. And it seemed like it was just the transition from law enforcement to education, it was very smooth and very easy. It was it was very quick. And so I went from being a police officer to a teacher. And so that definitely just, I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me, doing that. And I think that was the best decision that I've ever made in my life, to be honest with you.
Well, I've learned over the years, Mike, that when things go easily, it's because God intended them
That's
that
right.
way.
That's right.
And if you have to fight to attain something, it may not be what you're supposed to be working for.
Yes, sir.
That's not always the case, but there's a lot of truth in that.
I think that was the case with this, Dr. Arnold. I mean, doors open, positions came available very quickly, very easily. And of course, I give all the credit to God for that. And I just believe that God ordained and ordered my steps to go into education. And so here I am some 20 plus years later, over 25 years. So it's certainly, I can see God's footprint and hand all over that at the beginning.
That's great. And Gerald Carey was probably one of the best people you could have had in your first few years as a teacher.
He was easy to work for. Mr. Carey, a very nice man, very supportive.
Yes, sir. Now, who was the teacher or the teachers that influenced you to go into education?
Oh, Dr. Arnold, there are so many, sir. Miss Ella Porter at Eddie Junior High School, Miss Robinson at Carver High School, Coach Wallace Davis, Coach George Williams, Reginald Williamson, Miss Lindsay, Christopher Lindsay, Mr. Lindsay's wife. Miss Lindsay was actually my teacher, my PE teacher at Carver. Miss Ellison, Sandra Ellison, she was one. Miss Maxine Lee. Sir, I just had a host of individuals that just poured into me. That I looked up to their role models. Miss Florence. Miss Florence probably was about 4'11", Dr. Arnold, but she taught AP English at Carver, not AP, we didn't have AP, honors English at Carver High School. And I was trying to I'm still trying to figure out to this day why I was in that class, but I was in her class with the smartest kids in the school, but she was a great, wonderful teacher, Miss Florence, but just so many iconic educators that I had the pleasure of being taught by, and to this day still have great relationships with them. Absolutely, when they see me, I mean, it's just a thrill to see them.
That's great. You know, you've probably come across situations where you've placed students in advanced classes where maybe they thought they didn't deserve to be there, but you thought they needed to be there because there was something they could learn from it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, good. I'm glad that many people had an interest and took an interest in your career and your education. Now, talk to me, Mike, about your journey through from teaching to administration and what you learned about the differences in being in the classroom and being in the front office.
Yes, sir. Well, I started out at Kendrick, as previously mentioned, and Coach Church, he approached me and asked me that I wanted to be the head basketball coach at East Columbus. And I just started. Dr. Arnold, I didn't even play basketball. As a matter of fact, I didn't even like basketball. But I was okay coach because I didn't have any bad habits. Because I didn't have any habits, so I definitely didn't have any bad habits. And so Coach Church hired me. He recommended me as the head basketball coach. East Columbus was just being built at that time. And so I was on the inaugural staff with Carol Hutchison, Dr. Carol Hutchison, whom
Yeah.
I love. And you know Dr. Hutchison, who ended up being like a mother figure to me. She literally did. And so I left Kendrick, transitioned over to middle school, which was East Columbus. And this gentleman took a chance on me and hired me as an assistant principal at Shaw High School. And I learned a lot up under him. You may know him. His name is Dr. Jim Arnold. He hired me as assistant principal at Shaw High School. And I was there for 6 good years under this man's leadership. And I learned a lot. Matter of fact, I use a lot of what I call Arnold-isms that I learn and I mention. So whenever I speak or make decisions and stuff, I always mention, yeah, Dr. Arnold taught me this. And so I left Arnold, and I was promoted to principal of Marshall Middle School. Marshall, they closed Marshall down in 2 years. And so I was administratively appointed to the principal at Rothschild Middle School, and we changed the name from Rothschild Middle School to Rothschild Leadership Academy.
Yeah.
In an effort to just try to transform the culture. And then we left Rothschild Leadership Academy, and we became the principal of our Early College Academy, which was a dual enrollment magnet school. And we left there. They closed early college down. And at that point, I was really in a fog because I was like, every school that I'm going to, they're closing down. Well, I made to Georgetown, and they didn't close Georgetown down. So I was able to stay at Georgetown for 4.5 good years. I loved it. That probably, besides Shaw, that was probably one of my best assignments at Georgetown Elementary, 4.5 years. So Dr. Arnold, by being an elementary principal, being appointed to Georgetown, that placed me in a very unique category where now I have served as the principal at the high school level, at the middle school level, and now at the elementary level. So that put me in a very unique category. And so from there, I was promoted to position of Senior Director of Student Services, where I now currently serve.
Those 3 levels, serving as an administrator at all 3 levels, they're all different animals, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
They each have their own set of issues and problems, and I'm not telling you one is easier than the other. They're just different. And
Yes.
the focus is different too. You get to focus more on kids in elementary and middle school than you do in high school. A lot of it is on procedures and policies and that sort of thing in high school. But now, can you recall some of the experiences at Georgetown that stand out to you the most?
Uh, Sir, there were so many. One that stand out was how protective the parents are of their students. Now, remember, I'm coming from high school, from secondary to elementary. And so I had to get accustomed to just how protective parents were. And so my response to that was that I just availed myself and made myself totally available. And I did something that a lot of people probably would consider maybe a little bit cautious, but when I called parents and I basically provided automated calling service, I provided my number, my work cell number. I wanted the parents to have direct access to me. And so that worked. Now, sometimes I would get calls on Saturdays and Sundays, but I would always answer the phone. But I think I believe the parents appreciated that I made myself available to them. So it was just the veracity of the parents' protectiveness of their students. And so I think after I established myself as an individual that cared about their children, they started to trust me a little bit. They didn't know me when I first went there. I'm not sure what they heard about me. I really didn't ask. I was scared to ask what they heard about me because, I don't know what they would have told me. But once we were able to establish our footprint in the building, and once we were able to establish that we love their kids and we had the kids' best interest, I could see the trust building. And like I said, Georgetown was an absolute, a wonderful assignment.
Well, most of those parents at any level are concerned that their child is being treated fairly as
Oh,
much
yes,
as anything else.
yes, sir. Absolutely.
I like what you said about the phone access. I I remember having an open door policy and discovered very quickly that the problem with an open door policy is that the door was almost always open.
That's right. Ooh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would get phone calls on the weekends, holidays, during the summertime, and when parents would transfer to other schools and they had problems at other schools, and when they were middle school, they would call me back. But I like that, sir. I mean, just like I learned that from you. I mean, you had an open door policy. I mean, you were very accessible, and you were accessible. And so I took that lesson, and that's the principal I became. I was a very accessible principal.
That's admirable. That really is. Now, I remember a situation at Shaw where, you have always been a very nice dresser, highly appropriate. And you know the lady I'm talking about, don't you? And she said you had called her child in for something and called her up too. And she was going to talk to you, and she looked at you and said, "This is your assistant principal? Why, he looks like he's getting ready to go to the club."
Yes, sir. I remember that. I remember that. I remember that.
Well, going to the club or not, you were a nice dresser and still are, I see.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Arnold.
But now, Mike, what is your current job description and the responsibilities that you have?
Yes, sir. So I'm just coming off right now doing tribunal. So I'm the hearing officer for the Muscogee County School District as it relates to tribunal hearings for students. So that's really probably my main responsibility. But I'm also over central registration. I have a wonderful manager and Miss Sonia Sheehan and a wonderful team. So we basically handle with central registration. So I supervise that department. Ms. Pohamas is our head nurse. I'm over the nurses in the schools as well. I'm also over hospital homebound teachers, which are Barbara Johnson is our head hospital homebound teacher. And we also, Dr. Arnold, we field all of the grievances and all the concerns that parents have for the district. And Ms. Tamika Green does a good job with that. And my executive secretary for tribunals is Demita Thomas. And I'm also over the alternative school, which Dr. Reginald Griffin, he's over that, and Catapult, which is ran by Director Jimmy King. So I have all that under my umbrella. So I stay busy, sir.
What is Catapult, Mike?
So that's for overage learners.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so they're assigned to certain cohorts. Well, students come in cohorts. So we're trying to graduate them, and they have life circumstances that our traditional setting would just is not appropriate for them. And so Catapult allows them to work at their own pace and their own schedule. Like for instance, I met one young man who said that his mother is sick and his father died. And he said that Catapult allows him to work and also to go to school at the same time. So he kind of, well, not kind of, but he makes his own schedule. And so it allows him to stay in school and he'll be able to graduate, but he also be able to work and take care and help his mother. And
That
so
sounds like a
Catapult,
great program, Mike.
it is, it
I
is.
always was concerned about having 20-year-olds, either males or females, involved in high school classes, just simply because of the age difference.
That's right.
And with that age difference comes a certain knowledge difference at that age. And it's not always, it's sort of like having 16-year-olds in middle school. That's not necessarily a good combination.
No.
Well, now, what takes up most of your time, Mike?
Uh, I would say central registration questions, and grievances and concerns from parents, because I have to call and I have to confer with principals and I have to speak with principals about issues and concerns. So I would say those two, give or take, it depends on the day, but mostly is certainly going to be the grievances and central registration.
Well, I've discovered in my experience that a lot of us principals are territorial to a great degree,
Yes, sir.
and we are very picky about who comes into our territory and who doesn't. And that's not always a good thing, I know. But being where you are, you get to have an overarching view of the
Yes.
situation and not just that ground level principal view.
Yes, sir. And having that experience, at the high school level, being in AP for, 6 years at Shaw High School and, being under your leadership, and then becoming a high school principal at Early College Academy High School really helps because I was that principal. I was, principals at high school because it's so much. Because if you think about it, and you know this better than most, I'm the individual that's responsible for graduating these students. If they don't graduate, then I will be held responsible. So that's a heavy lift. And so I took that responsibility very seriously.
Yeah, you're right. That is an important consideration. Now, Mike, I want to give you all the powers in the world for a few minutes and let you tell me what you would do to provide answers for the biggest issues in public education.
Ooh, Dr. Arnold, that's uh if you gave me all the powers in the world
For one day.
for one day,
So you wouldn't have to catch all the flack after you make a decision.
I would make it against the law for kids to drop out of school. I would make it mandatory. I would legislate or make it mandatory that parents would have to join a PTO. It'll be, I mean, it'll be law. I would change that we go to school year round. I would do away with, I guess, ability. I mean, some kids are ready to move on faster than others. So we wouldn't hold kids to the traditional, seat time that we hold kids to now. We'll let them go. If a kid is ready to graduate at age 15 or 16 and they went to school, then yes. I also would hire reading specialists in the elementary level. It would be a class, and I would have teachers that would teach their specialty, what they like. You told me that. I mean, you said, Mike, always allow teachers to teach what they like because they're going to teach you their strength and they're going to teach you their interests. So I will have in elementary, I will have the teachers rotate into the elementary classes because my wife loves English, but she's not necessarily, well, she liked math too, but science is not her forte, no pun intended. But I will have an individual, like kindergarten and first grade, and Lord knows, Dr. On, I would bring cursive writing back into being a taught subject. Our kids need to learn how to write in cursive, and I would do away with a lot of I guess you would say the FaceTime with the computers, and implement more of explicit direct instruction. definitely do that. Now that's if I had all the power in the world for one day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I understand.
Mhm.
Now, I agree with you about a lot of those areas. There is a negative side to mandatory education. And the only problem with forcing parents to come in to be a part of the PTA or PTO would be, how do you enforce that?
Right.
It's difficult to enforce common sense and good child raising technique.
Yeah.
But you're right. It would be a good thing if we could get that participation from them. Now, what what part does mentoring prospective or rising administrators play in your role?
Are you recalling, well, who I'm being mentored by?
Know who you are mentoring.
Who I am mentoring? Well, I have a couple of individuals that I'm mentoring. Dr. Monique Williams is the one that I'm mentoring now. She was a newly appointed principal at Midland Academy. And so I mentor her, at least that's what she calls me. I was actually appointed her mentor by Dr. Ron Williams, the East Region Chief. So
Yeah,
what he did was he made sure that new appointed principals were provided, or they were teamed with seasoned or veteran principals. So I had the pleasure of being teamed with Dr. Monique Williams, and we communicate on a daily basis. Well, not daily basis, but we do communicate quite regularly when she has questions or concerns, and she'll call me, and we'll talk it through and we'll work it out. So I have that pleasure of mentoring her.
excellent. That's one of the responsibilities that every administrator has, I think, is to
Yes,
make sure there's somebody coming up to take their place.
yes,
Now,
sir.
Mike, are you seeing a shortage of teachers in Muscogee County?
Yes, sir. It seems to be, well, it is, and it doesn't seem, it's systemic across the nation, unfortunately. We are suffering. Education is certainly suffering from a shortage of teachers. I believe you talk to anyone that is associated with Columbus State, which is one of our main recruiting campuses. Um, the students going to education has dramatically decreased tremendously. So yes, so we are seeing that. I do applaud Dr. Lewis and our HR personnel for devising and creating different incentives. Like for instance, if someone moves from out of the state, there's a housing allowance that they receive up front, sign-on bonuses, things of that nature. So we're certainly, we're trying to evolve and attempting to meet the needs and to recruit, because we're all trying to get a bite out all of us sharks in the small pond, and we're all trying to basically take a bite out of the same piece, the the same piece of fish. So we're all trying to bite the same thing. So, we're all scrapping for the same. So we're coming up with ideas, recruiting ideas, and changing our website, anything we can to make this attractive for individuals to work in Muscogee County.
Excellent. When I moved to Muscogee County, it was Georgia, not just Muscogee County, that when I received my last check in July from my previous employer, I didn't get another one until the first week in September,
Mm,
because of the way the payroll issue worked at that time. So unless you were financially independent, teachers were getting pretty hungry in that 3 month period before they got their first paycheck from their new system.
yes,
And
sir.
I'm glad to see that Georgia has resolved that issue.
Right,
Now,
absolutely.
what else can we do to make teaching more attractive to younger people?
Well, I think that, when you speak with young people, their main concern, believe it or not, is a respect that they receive from students in the classroom,
Or the lack of
or
respect?
the lack of respect. I'm sorry, the lack of respect that they receive from students. I mean, these are young people. My son is 17, Dr. Arnold. I'm not sure if you remember him or not, but he's 17 now.
I cannot believe that.
Yes. So he's graduating, And you know, he tells me all the time, he tells my wife and I all the time that he would not become a teacher. And I said, well, why? So I said, it's an admirable, noble profession. He said, Dad, because the kids are just so disrespectful. I said, well, son, not all the kids. Well, he said enough of them. And so I think that we need to as a society, we really need to look at what we're exposing our children to. And we need to be, you know, we need to be transparent with ourselves, because think about it. It may not affect you right now, but that teacher shortage is really going to affect our grandchildren and great grandchildren. And so do we really want that to be the society we leave behind for our children, that public education has done so much, but now is you know, it's on the verge of collapse?
I think you're right about that, and a lot of that goes back to what you mentioned before is parental involvement.
That's right.
You know, and if children or students are allowed to be disrespectful to their parents at home, you're pretty doggone sure they're going to do the same thing in school.
That's right.
Yeah. How do you answer that, Mike?
Well, you know, Dr. Arnold, let me say this, so this, you know, to make sure I'm clear. We have some great kids. We have some awesome kids.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, kids who, when I see these kids, I have hope that we have a bright future. It's just we have a lot of situations, circumstances that are going on. I think we need to look at, I think as a society, we need to come together, different entities in industry, you know, the entertainment industry, the social media industry, just all these industries need to come together, and we need to the legislation. We need to come together and look at what we're exposing our children to. I just don't think children are mature enough to receive some of the exposure that they receive. You know, there are a lot of things that I did not get exposed to until I was well in my 20s or mid 20s, and kids 12 and 13 are getting exposed to this now at 12 and 13.
You're exactly right. You know, one thing I think that plays into that is the basic family unit
Right.
is
Okay.
not
Yeah.
what it once was. You know, that you're dealing with students, so many students from single parent households, that it makes it tough for them to work and be a parent at the same time.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And you know, I used to tell my teachers that, I said, guys, you have to take into consideration, our parents are tired. They work physically demanding jobs. I said, so take that into consideration. If they cannot get to you, find a way to get to them.
Yeah, good point. Excellent point. Now, Mike, what role does faith play in your professional life?
Dr. Arnold is the Alpha and the Omega. I put everything first with the Lord, everything. So for me, it is faith is everything. And the reason I say that is because, you know, we all have a story to tell. My chapter 5 looked pretty promising and pretty good, but my chapter 2 was pretty dark. I had some things going on that I had to work out. And God was with me in chapter 2, and God was with me in chapter 5, and God was with me in chapter 1. And so when I look up and I look around, there has been one constant in my life, and that's God being there with and for me. So it's everything to me, Dr. Arnold.
Was your faith part of what your parents taught you?
Yes, sir. Oh, we had no choice but to go to the church. That wasn't an option. I didn't realize kids had choices not to go to church until I became grown.
Well, I didn't know about anybody that had that choice either. Uh, we were going to be there every Sunday and most Wednesday nights, whether we wanted to be or not, and we had to get dressed up to go. I still dress for church on Sunday because I think Mama would roll over in her grave if she saw me wearing anything she thought was inappropriate.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Mike, what are you going to be when you grow up?
Oh, Dr. Arnold, I think this, I mean, now my plans are, of course, you know, God orders my steps, but Dr. Arnold, I am totally content with retiring, if God allows it, as a Senior Director of Student Service in Muscogee County. This job has been very fulfilling, very satisfying. I dreamt of having this job, and God allowed me to before I leave this earth, to be the Director of Student Services. So, sir, I'm content. that, I mean, this is it for me. Now, what happens after this, sir, is really truly on God, because I have no intention on going any further beyond this.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you do to alleviate the stress that comes along with this position?
Of course, I talk to my significant other, about things. I don't go into, anything confidential, but I just, talk to her. I do a lot of talking, I try to get it out, walking, exercise, and things of that nature. I'm doing something that I really was bad at before when I was younger, which is take vitamins. I take vitamins and to make sure that my immune system is built up. And I pray. I mean, I pray, and I mean, Dr. Arnold, when I tell you, sir, I get a lot of church. I get a lot of church in, and so I do. So those things really help me keep a balance. It helps me my equilibrium from going one way to the right or to the left. So certainly all of that, but get a lot of church in, and just pray. Do a lot of praying.
Mike, that sounds like you have an exceptional balance that I wish more administrators had.
Yes, sir.
Well, listen, I appreciate you talking to me today. I know you're going to succeed in your new position. You're going to do what's best for parents and for students. And the Muscogee County School District is lucky to have you. And I appreciate you talking to me today, Mike. And tell your wife and that young man in your house I said hello.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Arnold. Thank you, sir, for thinking enough of me to interview me, sir. I appreciate all that you have done for me as well. And please tell Mrs. Arnold and your grandsons that I say hello as well.
Well, I will, and to make you feel a little bit older, I will tell you that the oldest grandson is ending his second year in Tuscaloosa,
Oh, Lord.
and the youngest grandson is about to graduate from Harris County.
Oh, wow. Yes, I remember.
So,
I've been around you a long time. They were little bitty fellows.
oh, I know, running around the halls.
Yes, sir. Oh, my goodness.
Well,
Yes.
Mike, you have a good day, buddy. It was good to talk to you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Arnold, sir. It was a privilege.